Hi, I'm Jeric.
Hi, I'm Lorna.
We're going on a journey to discover the legacy of the American Legion
And how that history of the Legion is shaping the vision for our future. In 2016, the American Legion launched a digital media effort to identify, photograph, and document U.S. military and veteran monuments and memorials worldwide. Less than 2 years later, the ever-growing inventory of entries, typically shot with smartphones and uploaded onto a National American Legion database, exceeded 2,000. Honor and remembrance is a sacred passion of the American Legion and has been since the organization's formation in 1919.
By the time U.S. troops were awaiting orders to ship home after the armistice had ended World War I, an estimated 70,000 Americans had been laid to rest in temporary cemeteries, isolated graves all across Europe. Lieutenant Colonel Francis E. Drake, commander of American Legion Post 1 in Paris, was instrumental in establishment of the American Overseas Memorial Day Association in 1920. That effort ultimately led to the birth of the Legion's Overseas Graves Decoration Trust Fund, which, to this day, provides free U.S. flags for the graves and memorials of fallen heroes at cemeteries administered by the American Battle Monuments Commission, the AOMDA, and others.
In remembrance of the fallen in Europe, the American Legion proclaimed the poppy as its official flower in 1920. That choice was inspired by a poem written by Canadian World War I doctor John McCrae, whose words would become globally synonymous with remembrance of the war dead.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
The American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary, along with other veteran service organizations worldwide, have illuminated the poppy since then in a variety of ways, from Memorial Day fundraisers for veterans hospitals to art forms to jewelry and even as an icon for veteran-owned business competitions. All in the memory of those who sacrificed their lives in the name of freedom and democracy.
Between the world wars, thousands of memorials were conceived, constructed, or financially supported by the American Legion, from the humblest plaques in city parks to towering monuments in Europe. At the American Legion's Third National Convention in Kansas City in 1921, the Allied leaders of the Great War joined the veterans in a groundbreaking ceremony for the massive and majestic Liberty Memorial, which would open to the public 5 years later.
American Legion posts around the world would be named in memory of meaningful people associated with the organization's values who have gone on to what is known as post-everlasting. In fact, the first American Legion post in line for a charter in 1919 came from Washington, D.C., a plan made even before the Paris Caucus came up with a temporary name for the organization. The charter members wanted to name it Pershing Post 1 in tribute to their commanding general in Europe. However, at the St. Louis Caucus in May 1919, it was renamed George Washington Post 1 after delegates determined that no American Legion post could be named after a living person. Arlington National Cemetery in Northern Virginia holds a special place in the legacy of the American Legion. U.S. Representative Hamilton Fish, a founder of the American Legion who had trained at the Plattsburgh camp, introduced legislation in 1920 to enshrine the remains of one great war hero who could not be identified. On March 4, 1921, with backing of the entire American Legion, Congress authorized the burial of the unknown soldier at Arlington. And on November 11th of that year, flanked by legionnaires and the Allied generals of the Great War, President Harding dedicated the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. In 1926, following some instances of vandalism at the tomb, the American Legion called for sunset to sunrise surveillance by armed military personnel from Fort Myer. The 3rd Cavalry was first to perform this solemn duty, followed by the 3rd Infantry Regiment, which continues the honorable mission today. On July 2, 1937, the American Legion fought for and got approval for 24-hour guarding of the tomb, which continues today, no matter the conditions.
Unknown U.S. military personnel killed in action from World War II and the Korean War were added to the tomb in 1958 after President Eisenhower bestowed upon them the Medal of Honor. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan served as the next of kin to an unknown soldier from the Vietnam War, who also was awarded the Medal of Honor. 14 years later, thanks to advances in DNA testing, the Vietnam War representative's remains were positively identified as those of Air Force First Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blassie, who was shot down in 1972. His remains were disinterred and returned to his family, and the Vietnam War vacancy in the tomb remains unfilled.
As plans to establish a national memorial to the Vietnam War were announced in the late 1970s, the American Legion played an active, influential, and essential role. The American Legion stood by Maya Lin, the Yale architecture student whose design was chosen by a panel of judges on May 6, 1981. Critics called the design too dark and lacking in traditional ornamentation. Even after a second panel of judges selected Maya Lin's design, groundbreaking was stalled due to the criticisms. The American Legion met with Secretary of the Interior James Watt and launched a campaign to seek President Reagan's intervention to get the project started. Finally, after much debate and negotiation, the project broke ground in March 1982. In August of that year, the American Legion presented a check for $1 million to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, making the Legion the single largest contributor to the project. And in November 1982, the American Legion sponsored a 4-day National Salute to Vietnam Veterans event in Washington, the highlight of which was the dedication of the wall. Thousands attended, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial would go on to become America's most visited monument to military sacrifice, attracting more than 3 million visitors a year.
Shortly after that memorial was dedicated, a combat nurse of the Vietnam War and member of the American Legion, Diane Carlson Evans, began a campaign to recognize on the National Mall the women who served during the fighting in Southeast Asia. She began the process by drafting a resolution at her local post in Wisconsin. She guided the resolution through the Department of Wisconsin, and then in 1985, the American Legion National Executive Committee passed it. In 1993, after years of debate, fundraising, and effort, the Vietnam Women's Memorial was dedicated on Veterans Day at the National Mall. For her relentless determination to honor women who have served in uniform, the American Legion presented Diane Carlson Evans with its prestigious Patriot Award in February of 2018.
The American Legion also got behind the National World War II Memorial on the National Mall, once again raising more money than any other organization to see it dedicated in 2004. Hundreds of other memorials and monuments to military service and sacrifice have been made immortal worldwide by American Legion contributions and labor over the decades. In the interests of national security, history, morality, and American strength, the American Legion has taken this mission to every corner of the planet to ensure that future generations always understand the price paid for justice, freedom, and democracy.